Hello, and welcome to Wisdom in the Wounds. My name is Beth, and I am your host. Looking forward to talking to you about life experiences and the wisdom that God brings from it, and the healing that can come from it through talking. Hello, and welcome to Wisdom in the Wounds. My name is Beth, and I'm here to talk about hardships and the wisdom that comes on the other side of a difficult time. I'll begin with me, but in time I do want to invite others to join me in offering their story as a platform for hope, connectivity, and prayerfully healing for some who are still walking through that difficult time. So today I want to talk about acceptance. A very simple concept and simple word that for some of us is maybe difficult to grasp, including for myself. God has taken me a long way, but I can tell I'm still growing in this area. Maybe for you, you're battling acceptance with a spouse. Maybe you feel unseen or misunderstood, and maybe for others, it could be a parent or a family member. Maybe no matter how hard you try, it does not seem to bring true peace within the relationship. And then for a few, it could be battling accepting yourself. Knowing how to really love yourself and feeling foreign at the idea of loving yourself. And this comes from a deeply rooted place that needs to be dug out. You can love the person that God created to be loved. You can love the person that God created to be loved. And that person is you, and that person is me. An assignment my therapist gave me once was, and it was crazy how difficult this was to do. She said, I want you to go home and I want you to look at yourself and I want you to say, I love you. And just her asking me to do that brought tears to my eyes. And I really had to think about that and why is that such a challenge? And I think it comes from a rooted place of maybe previous abandonment, a rooted place of something that's not of God, because He created us to be loved. So my hardship with acceptance began pretty early. At age 9, while at a sleepover at my friend April's house, my sister's boyfriend came over. It was late. And I walk up to the screen door and he says, I want you to know, Beth, that your mom shot your dad. And he's in the hospital, and you may want to figure out where you're going to live. At age 9, I was also told the truth about my dad sexually abusing a family member. So these two things, did they coincide and give reason for my mother's actions? I don't know with certainty. Only she and my dad know. And I will say that both of them have come to a place of forgiveness, have come to a place. They did not stay together. They remained divorced, but they came to a place of forgiveness in different ways. And it took a long time, I think, for them to find freedom in their life, but through the might of Christ, it is possible. It is possible to find forgiveness in those spaces and to also walk in wisdom. And I'll get into that a whole nother episode. So had to figure out where I was going to live. That was a moment in time that I would say was pretty pivotal. I chose adoption. I really believed I wanted to live with my sisters. They were not financially prepared for that. I had a twin brother they were young, and I understand that the reasons why that couldn't have worked. So I was going to ask that I be placed for adoption, and my brother, his choice was he wanted to move in with my dad once he was well enough to come home. It was a miracle that he survived. It was a neck gunshot wound, fraction of an inch from a major artery, and he survived. So it was just not his time. I did not feel comfortable based on just knowing his history. I didn't feel comfortable with it, and so I chose adoption. But my dad did rebuttal that. He wanted me to consider moving in with my Aunt Shelby, which was his sister. I didn't know her very well, but she did take me out to Chick-fil-A. That's when Chick-fil-A was fairly new, and just sat with me. And it felt calm and normal, and I decided to move in with her, and I'm very grateful. She did not have to do that. She could have said no, but she said yes, and I will always be grateful to her for that. So I lived with my Aunt Shelby along with various different family members. I lived with her for a few years. Over time, I felt comfortable to move in with my dad, which that was during my teen years, and I didn't see a lot of my mom. Or my dad. He worked all the time during the day, so that was a very tough time. Then my sister took me in to try to help get me on the right track. And then my oldest sister took me in while I was in college. There were blessings that came out of the experience of being honestly raised by multiple different people. But there were also hardships. There were definitely some hardships along the way. And the details don't really matter, but there were hardships, and out of it, I think always this nagging sense of, I don't belong. Like, I don't know if I belong. And I think I always felt this sense of, I'm here at their mercy of saying yes when they could have said no. And so in life, I found it easier to love others than really let myself be loved by them, because there was a mistrust. There was this layer of mistrust. I was dreadfully shy. I was afraid to ask for what I wanted. I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid of pain. And so I felt more safe being the giver than the receiver. And I think what I learned out of that, the lessons on the other side of that, the wisdom on the other side of that God has given, was that any form of abandonment, if you've experienced true abandonment in life, it does not have to rob you from a healthy life and healthy relationships. It can teach you the gifting of letting God love you in those spaces where it felt lonely, to fill something that no one else can fill, and that once that is filled, create room for you to let those who are good for you in. And if you're able to get that at a young age, I would say in my experience, it was a gift. I mean, they say statistically, as you get older, the circle of people who surround you will get smaller and smaller, and your spaces and time of being alone will become greater and greater. So if you learn how to be in that stillness early, it's a gift. And what you think maybe left you behind is actually forging you ahead. And so, if that's you, or maybe if you're still fighting to reconcile what has hurt you, I pray that you consider asking God to show you your true acceptance today. Because you are accepted and you are loved. So a little story of where I'm still growing in acceptance. It's not that long ago. Went to a Christmas party. It was actually a Christmas celebration with our church for those who serve in the church. My husband and I were really excited because I was really excited. I did not go to prom. I am a high school dropout / college graduate. All praise to the Lord for that. So I was excited to get really dressed up. bought this beautiful red dress. My husband bought me jewelry to go with it by surprise, which is really kind of him. He looked handsome and, matching tie. So we get there and I see my friends and we get to mingle a little bit. We go into the service, we walk out and we mingle some more and grab dessert. But before we grab dessert, I walk up to my circle of girlfriends, and I see them talking, and they're waiting for someone else to come to take a picture. And I don't know why, other than it's just an attack from the enemy. But as they're walking away to take a picture, I truly believe that I'm not supposed to go and take that with them. I get that feeling, that little girl feeling of, you don't belong. And instead of following with them and just knowing, like just having that self-assurity and knowing I belong, I go to the bathroom. So I go and I use the restroom, and I can feel a little bit of tears starting to well. And then I'm frustrated with myself. And I say, you know what? You're not going to let this ruin your evening. This is a beautiful event. You're with your husband. You're with friends. You're going to get out there and you're going to have a good time. You're going to suck it up and you're going to have a good time. So I walk out and I think I even prayed. I was like, Lord, help me to move past this. Don't let this saturate me. So I walk out and I go back to my group of friends after they take their picture. And they say, Beth, where were you? Where were you? We wanted to take a picture with you. And I just knew that was the love of God, that he was trying to, I let him in my weakness, and he drew me out in strength. He just said, I'm going to give this to her. I'm going to make it abundantly clear. This is where she belongs. And so they huddle around me. And not only that, they say, I want you in the middle, Beth. I want you in the middle, lady in red. And, little did they know, they really were just acting obediently probably to what Holy Spirit put on their hearts to say to me, and that I belonged. And so I wasn't fully transparent with them with everything that was running through my mind. And maybe I think I did say I didn't want to, intrude. But in that moment, they all were so loving. And I think that it's just when you have walked through a life where you have been kind of left behind in some ways, that insecurity and that feeling of you don't belong, or the traits of maybe just choosing to distance yourself, can easily brew if we're not careful. And I can say that from experience, that I've walked through that, and I've learned it's just simply not the way that I'm meant to walk in this life. I'm more than enough. God has made me more than enough, and he has done the same for you. So I just hope that encourages you today. And thank you so much for tuning in and listening. And until next time. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you can tune in next week to hear more stories of wisdom in the wounds.